Finally, a break in the oppressive heat that has characterized the amount of summer we've had so far. As the temperature dropped down to a more reasonable mid 80s today, but it was really humid. That signaled the onset of some biblical rains, flooding, flash flooding all over the place. Mountaineers off the turf, maybe off the turf for the rest of your natural lives, by the way. I'm certain the Mountain Man is sloppy. Didn't get on over to their website yet and check it out. First three races were supposed to be on the grass, and the first two scratched down to 5. So we got a 5-on-5 daily double. But that is not the fault of a Mountaineer. That is unavoidable. If you're going to card grass races, I mean, you used to take a lot of heat for all the scratches when races came off the grass. But that's the flip side of the coin. If you want to card attractive grass races, and that's Mountaineer's competitive advantage in this loosely grouped racing region, you've got to stomach the scratches when these races come off the turf. Unfortunately, some of the things Mountaineer asks us to stomach these days, I'm not quite so favorably disposed towards. We got another couple of West Virginia bred races tonight, and it seems like there's a bigger and bigger focus on a program that's been an abysmal failure in northern West Virginia. It's kind of like Henry Davis for you baseball fans out there. Any Pittsburgh Pirate fans? Got 2 of them tonight carded, and it's kind of like Henry Davis, who hits 140, an all-time low number for major league hitters. No kidding. Like since the 1880s, the Christy Mathewson days, it's kind of like him coming to bat twice. And this same lineup. And also a $3,200 claimer tonight we've got a stomach. And it is just an awful race, just a really bad filly and mare race with some extremely restrictive condition on it. And that's another horseman-friendly measure that does plenty for them, as it kind of incentivizes them from upgrading their stock and enables them to continue earning with some really bad horses that couldn't cut it at the $4,000 level. Doesn't do much for our cases, though. The players that want better races to wager on just doesn't. A little bit disappointed in some of the cards from my favorite tracks nowadays. One aspect of the racing program I am not disappointed in, for sure, is the track superintendent. I'm not even sure who it is these days, but he is the star of that racing program for certain. Because it's almost like I can rubber stamp my bias notes anymore, which were over on my website, not on my YouTube channel, but over on my website, which you can get to by searching at the Dungeon 2025. And I do the track bias thing in diary form whenever Mountaineer runs. And I can almost rubber stamp it fair, 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 fair. I've never seen so many fair and unbiased surfaces at Mountaineer, and I have been part of that track up until a year ago for decades and decades and decades. So kudos and a big tip of the cap to whoever maintains the racing surface at Mountaineer. You guys know me. I am Mark Patterson. I do what I used to do when I hosted Mountaineer's in-house show, which went kind of viral and was really popular for a long, long time. I just kind of shoot the breeze with you guys back and forth between races, break these races down, and kind of give you a second opinion, as if we were at simulcast together or even trackside together or something like that. I'm not a tout. I'm not going to post these big, complicated tickets with A's, B's, C's, and D's. It's not my thing. But you guys will know by the time I'm done with my pre-race who I may be thinking of betting on, who I like in the race, who I think might be a good value, and which chalks I think you might want to steer clear of. I think that'll be really obvious, guys. I'm not saying I won't get along to posting some picks, get around to it, but for now, no. Just not going to do it for now. I do have a couple of features here on my YouTube channel. And please, if you're able to join me, many, many thanks. Please hit the like button and subscribe. It helps me. At some point, I might be able to get paid if I can build the subscription number up enough. But a couple of features I do have. The most misconceived morning line price points, the worst odds points of the night I have on a banner that I will put up. As a matter of fact, I'll throw it up right now so you guys can get a look at it. I think I'm calling it head scratching morning line odds. And the lines maker didn't really do a bad job tonight, which is really saying something when you're talking about the Mountaineer program odds. But anyways, I only have 2 on there, and they're not even that egregious. But since it's part of what I do here, and I was an official odds maker for some 35 years, 40,000 races, I'm going to critique the morning line. It's nothing anybody should take personally. I have no idea who even does the line in Mountaineer, but I'm going to critique it, and I'm going to cherry pick and point out what I think are really bad price points. And I only came up with 2 of them tonight. And the first of that pair is not even that egregious, 4-1 on Our Cardinal Prince in race 4. Now, other nights could be a very different story. And also, and it was kind of a famine for this feature also, I also have race flow notes. Some keys about how races might play out, usually up top or in general terms of closer friendly, speed friendly, stuff like that. Maybe with some pivotal horses that may or may not be role players when it comes to the pace and the dynamics of a race. Then I'm going to list those two. And here is that banner, Race Flow Notes, 7th with Attaboy Anthony on potentially negative drop and Hardest Straight, perhaps in need of yet another outing. This race puts up a distinct meltdown vibe. So that's about it tonight for the race flow notes. So some nights I have 4 or 5 races featured, and I have to do the scroll across the bottom of the screen. But tonight, not a whole lot going on with my critique of Mountaineers program price points, the odds line, or in terms of my race flow notes, because I don't think a lot of these races really come down to how they're going to play out up top tonight, as much as who's going to fire and who was not going to fire. So with no further ado, let's get down to business. It's got to be, what, about 7 minutes to post, something like that, without flipping over to that screen. Our first race was supposed to be 1 mile on the turf, make it 1 mile on a mountain main, which I guess is sloppy, correct? It's got to be, because then we got biblical rains. It just poured and poured and poured. And my son, Shane, who likes to go on these long solitary walks at a nearby state park, gets stranded under a wooden pergola. And it's flashing lightning all over the place. So I call him and I say, "Little Bear, are you cool? Are you all right, man?" He said, "Yeah, I'm fine, Dad. I'm away from the lightning. I'm under this big wooden pergola." So Dad's got to jump at the car because Shane's like a mile from his vehicle. I got to jump at the car, get soaking wet, and go tearing to the state park to pick him up and drive him to his vehicle. And I told him, "Man, don't ever neglect to call me when you're in a bad spot, because Dad will fix it. I will make it better, my man." In the tradition of my father, God rest him, Charles Edward Patterson. I'm a 3rd consecutive Edward in the male Patterson line. I never did not look up when I was in a bad spot and see my dad there, sometimes miraculously, when he was not even supposed to know where I was or what kind of nasty plight I'd gotten myself into. So that's part of it, right? Being there for your kids, which doesn't make me a good guy. Doesn't the Bible say even Satan loves those who love him? I'm not going to heaven because I'm a good dad, or I'm good to my son. I don't think it works like that. I think the bar might be a little bit higher, huh? We're definitely not going to talk religion, guys. First race, big favorite, Some Are Blessed. I think I spied him at 1-5 when I looked at the odds. Some Are Blessed loses by a head last time at an off-turf race to a better field than this. This is a starter 5 or $10,000 claimer. That was a 12-5 starter, and it was a better field with more dirt talent than this race possesses, or at least more dirt talent that is suited to get the distance here. Some Are Blessed, a Defiant Giant, and this was a strange race in the way it unfolded up top. Some Are Blessed maybe look like the speed there because he does possess a turn of foot, especially when he goes a route of ground. But he was strangely sluggish as every closer in town went up and enlisted on what was a really soft pace, almost 25 and more than 49. Defiant Giant, the winner there, is normally a deep closer who runs in those 3-turn mile and a 16th jobs at Charlestown, was actually part of the lead there. So Some Are Blessed makes this heroic move around the turn. It's not like he's being rated cleverly or in a patient manner, because that's not what Whitaker does. Whitaker climbs on board and goes hee-haw, and this is not a knock. I like his effort. Goes to the stick early and says, "Come on, horse, let's go. Now, 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 now." So don't confuse Some Are Blessed last effort with a comfortable pace-stalking, patiently ridden effort. That's not what it was about. He was disturbingly sluggish as some stone-cold closers went up and occupied the pace that should have been his on paper, but then came manfully with a lot of heart and a stout finish to nearly outfinish that deep closer. It was part of that soft pace. Defiant Giant. The buyer is supposed to win this. No question about it. Some Are Blessed, if you drop back to his previous third effort when second is Sir Maximus, who was way, way better than these horses. That effort is supposed to win this. My knock on Some Are Blessed is this. And you guys have heard this stuff from me before. Some Are Blessed has run 23 times in the long, arduous unending wraparound campaign since the outset of 2025, was involved in a hard fight right down to the finish last time. So at what point is this horse going to be a little bit knocked out and over the top? It's got to happen, right? Because they're animals, not machines. So that alone would preclude me labeling this horse some kind of a cinch. Summer Blessed. And before I continue about this race, I'm going to flip over and take a look at the odds. And thanks for joining me, guys. We'll get around to the comments very soon, I promise. And none of the things I say about West Virginia bred races or $3,200 claimers, because I lived it, I was through it. As a racing official, basically in charge of the racing office for a long, long time. And it's give and take back and forth with the horsemen. We're supposed to advocate for themselves. That is how the system works. And under my watch, we carded a lot of bad races at Mountaineer. But it is my job not to work for Mountaineer now, but to critique what goes on there. And I'm going to be unflinchingly objective about that. Seven to 5 on Summer Blessed. And we got 5-2 on Collectorate on the outside. Collectorate, I think, cut his teeth in two-turn sprints at Charlestown, which ain't routes, not full big boy routes. Collectorate tried to distance the ground one time on his hard copy form there and fell apart in the late stages. I don't think he wants to go long, Collectorate. Now, he was in really good hands before. And since changing hands is 0-3, but put up one big number with a very good effort to a trigger point. It was heads and shoulders above runners like this. And that 12-5 starter trigger point had just 1 or 2 other than allowance, I think. And Collectorate comes back at his next one and tries to rally, which is not really his game. He wants to be a big part of the pace, Collectorate. I don't think he really wants a route of ground, so I'm not going to go back and forth with any notion of how this might play out up top or any chance that he might snag the lead here from Summer Blessed and from Let Me Know Before You Go. I don't think it really matters a lot. If you do make him quickest to the first call here, and Summer Blessed and Let Me Know Before You Go aren't all that fast to the first call. So if you make Collectorate the speed and you're intrigued with that buyer a couple back, and maybe Julia Flick, who almost became a cult figure the last couple of years at Mountaineer for her excellent work in resurrecting a horse named Mighty Angel, who ran like once in his off a year, twice more in his off a year, and brought this apparent cripple back to competition and made a stellar, hard-knocking, ultra-consistent, well-managed $12,500 to $15,000 claimer out of him. And maybe she's improved on Collectorate off those last couple of races. It's possible, and Collectorate knows how to win. Let Me Know Before You Go. Capitalized last time on a no-speed scenario. Went out and grabbed the lead. This is a strong horse. I do think he's better on turf, though. Let Me Know Before You Go. So I don't really consider him unnecessarily likeliest to winner in here. But he is the closest to the rail speed here. Let Me Know Before You Go. And if you give him the front, he will take a mile from there. Let Me Know Before You Go. And he does have the he has the 2 dirt wins to his credit there and 2 turf wins. I think that's where similarity ends because this horse is better on grass and capitalized last time on kind of a no-speed spot. On the inside, Man on the Moon, well, we gave a lot of thought to here before the defection of Mr. Chilly Willy. Mr. Chilly Willy, I think you could have counted on to get the lead here. I don't think Mr. Chilly Willy wants a full big boy route of ground on conventional dirt. So I think that might have set it up for the newfangled tactics they tried last time on the change of jocks, and this was big. Going back to Oliveros, Man on the Moon, was not wasted. And the speed fight thing that torched him on May 12th and also June the 9th, it worked out better for him to take well back off the pace through the mid stages. And I think with Mr. Chilly Willy signed on for this, I think those kind of patient tactics may have benefited Man on the Moon. But now with Mr. Chilly Willy out, whoever gets the lead is going to be a strong horse, with a possible exception to Collectorate, who I don't think wants a route of ground on conventional dirt. Plus, Man on the Moon's last race was cheaper, was not as competitive as even what he faces here in the scratch-riddled off turf race. And it did set up for an all-closers ticket. So it was a timely change of tactics on Man on the Moon. But I do think he's a player here. I think he's a contender. And I also think he might be just a little bit under bet at 9-2. Man on the Moon. Trap Line is a turf creature, another horse that's run twice on turf, twice on dirt. That's where the similarity in performance stops because I don't think he wants anything to do with dirt. Trap Line. In fact, I think he's overbet at 7-1. So that's my thinking on the first race. You look at it even money right now on Summer Blessed. I don't think he's going to maintain even money. I think that price point might be just a little something of an illusion. Would not be surprised to see him go lower. By the time this field is dispatched or halfway down the backstretch these days, that's when you finally get a true read on the odds, correct? I can't really take issue with a disqualification there because the Barbarian, who was always aware of where he's at out there and where the competition is and rides right on the edge, really pushes the envelope, was well aware of the four horses on rushing presence and switched his stick to the left hand and came out a couple of passes. Now, you could make a case that maybe his mount was still clear enough for that number to stay up. I don't think, headed state official as is, it would have been the worst call in the history of horse racing, but nor can I take issue with it for the horse coming down. I would observe a couple of things. The four horse getting pinched back at the break tells me that runner was much the best. And Alejandro Gomez, who's been the revelation of this racing season at Mountaineer, better than I've ever seen him do, has that horse crazy good right now on turf or dirt. Let me know before you go. And also, I think the bugaboo there for some are blessed. The seeds of his defeat, I think we're starting to take root halfway down the backstretch because, as I mentioned, this is not a horse that's been extremely alert and he is a former speed, but he doesn't seem to have a lot of reserve racing energy as he was on the straight up chase, going after Collectorate very hard for the entirety of that journey. And that left the tank just emptied out enough that four horse may have gone by Summer Blessed in mid-stretch there if the Barbarian doesn't switch to the left and come out a couple of passes. So I think, strangely enough, if you look a little bit deeper, there was a lack of reserve racing energy that would have allowed Summer Blessed to draw away in the late stages that proved the horse's undoing. I think maybe set the table for the disqualification. You guys may alertly have noticed that I don't have the Diet Cherry Dr. Pepper from Wendy's tonight. And there's a reason for that. Oh, there's a big reason. I got in a whale of an argument, a hell of an argument with the person at Wendy's that takes your order and takes your money through the window. It got really nasty, really nasty. And I want you guys' opinion on it too, a little bit later on tonight. But now I am in a situation where I'm not going to either Wendy's in this area. And I'm going to miss the Diet Cherry Dr. Peppers. But I went to Sheetz today, and they've got a couple of buttons, and you can conjure up a Diet Cherry Dr. Pepper. I got me a big one. You won't believe how this chick treated me and what she said to me when I gave her my customary order of a Diet Cherry Dr. Pepper. But we better wait a little bit to get into that. And Chris Connor says, is there anything you're looking for during the post parade? Yeah, I want to make sure a horse is not out of sorts, acting ignorant or washed out with a kidney sweat, unless it's really warm, unless it's hot. And it's normal for a horse to get sweated up. Normally, the visual portion of my handicapping is during the race. I watch their action very closely. I know that cheap horses, a lot of successful cheap horses, travel like the proverbial box of rocks, but I still watch very closely whether or not they switch leads, because a lot of times when they don't, it's a sign of physical infirmities. They're trying to stay off or get off that right front. And I also watch for horses that bobble. Not a good sign when they bobble, like they're stepping in a ditch or something like that over the course of a horse race's entirety. That can likewise be a sign of some physical issues. I've watched, Lord knows, hundreds of thousands of horse races, and I have a pretty keen eye for how a horse is supposed to travel, is supposed to switch leads, and what an athletic mover is, and what an unsound, non-athletic mover is too. And I watch them in action a lot more than I do during the post parade, or even when they come back. What do you guys think about the disqualification? I'm sure you're all over it in the comment section there. And I'm getting a lot of text here too. The mailman texts me, he must not be in the house here. Does my man not know how to dial me up here on YouTube? He says, Michael Jones or nothing in this race. You know what, mail? I tend to agree with you. This guy carries the post. I carries the mail. He's a postman. Is the mailman. So he serves his country. Happy 4th. I hope you had mail. And I tend to agree with you in this race. Second race, scratched down to just 5 horses. It was supposed to be on grass. And don't blame Mountaineer when these races come off the turf, because if you want to card grass races, you have to take your medicine like big boys when they come off the grass, and you get the spate of scratches, inevitable scratches. So we're down to 5 in this race. And if you start to eliminate hopeless horses, and that's not too difficult to do in Mountaineer West Virginia restricted events, The one horse team Ramajama, that's my thing about Northern West Virginia's uh, breeding program. Too many team Ramas and team Jammas and Ramas and Jammas just jammed and ramming down our throats, you know? Anyways, here's a horse with 3 Sub-Zero buyers out of the last 4 races. So we're not going there. Slush Fund is a filly against the guys who's only run twice, just 2 starts worth of seasoning, trying to get a distance of ground. And I'm not going to do that either. So I tossed 2 of these 5 right off the bat there, which brings us down to the 2, the 4, to do process of elimination handicapping here, which is not how I roll. But let's do it for fun here. And number 5, Doom Loop. The Doomster was 2-1 on the morning line for turf. I'm not sure that was ever going to happen to begin with, but shouldn't now that the race is on dirt. Doom Loop has been part of the superfecta in the last trio of races. I get it. Doom Loop perked up for a 3rd place finish before being put away for the fall, and then comes back to the game with a second, but was 4-5. And that was not a 4-5 like performance with a 6 buyer speed fig. And Eyes of Candy, who mauled Doom Loop, had the ugliest set of past performances you've ever seen. But they were Charlestown past performances, okay? And Charlestown rules when it comes to West Virginia restricted races and horses. Theirs are just so much better than Mountaineers are, which I think might be a key to cashing on this race too. Doom Loop comes back on the next one, misses the trifecta ticket. Usually late sprinters like this don't really want a distance of ground. And I'm not at all sold on Doom Loop's stamina. I'm not even a little bit. Tried the 2 turns once in a maiden claimer on turf and loses 13 lengths from the second call to the finish. The bar is pretty low here, though. I get it. So I'm going to cut this down to the 2 Charlestown horses, Mark of Greatness, the 2. And they, not like us, the 4. Mark of Greatness is 0 for 14. They, not like us, is 0 for 12. You know what? In a really bad Mountaineer maiden race, experience can be a virtue, believe me, because it can sometimes result in a more professional performance, more seasoned performance. Sometimes these horses have had more time to get into their running style. And also, this is no baloney, guys. This can be very true in really bad Mountaineer maiden races. And also, sometimes, and this could be the case with number 4, they, not like us, more seasoning, more field starts sometimes results in a better foundation of fitness and thoroughbred performance and a stronger finish in a case like this, which I think might be the case with number 4, they, not like us. So let's check out the odds here. None of this is going to be lost on the Sharpies that set the win pool and set the exacta prices and so on and so forth. I hope that answered your question satisfactorily, Mr. Chris Connors. You know what? I have kind of a habit. I never answer exactly the question I was asked. I'm notorious for that on podcasts too. I've got some legendary performances that went viral on YouTube. The times I've been interviewed in length on podcasts, horse racing podcasts. And I always answer the questions in a satisfactory manner, but never exactly the question that I was asked. Oh, Kenny Neely says the DQ was at the break, not the stretch. Okay, I did not know that because I don't have any sound here in my studio. I don't have any sound here in the studio. So yeah, I get it. I understand it. Yeah, because it maybe didn't rise to the level of disqualification through the home stretch. Would have been borderline to begin with, for sure. Yeah, okay. DQ was at the break, not in the home stretch. And you know what? I had phoned my son and needed to talk to him about a personal matter and didn't even see the disqualification until I flipped back for the replays. And I don't have sound. I don't listen to the sound on the Mountaineer feed, so I was blissfully unaware that the disqualification call was at the break instead of at the finish. Now I get it. Things become a little bit more clear. Okay. So let's check out the odds. I wondered about that. What does Gomez have that horse going good right now? Did not used to be a smooth, pretty mover. For Eric Reed. Eric Reed's been moved up on a lot of horses over the years. A lot of horses. I know he's won a Kentucky Derby. And is a horseman in this region of considerable note. But I've seen him improved on. I've seen him improved on. With some horses that he's lost in the box. In fact, it used to be an angle for me that I would try to use. I'm checking it out now, 4 minutes to post, and They Not Like Us is 3-1, even as Doom Loop actually is 2-1. I don't think Doom Loop's going to stay 2-1. Slush Fund, even money. I will say this for Slush Fund. Slush Fund should flash some early speed. And Slush Fund exits a race that was one from off the pace. And there was a bit of early foot in there by West Virginia maiden standards. But this is still a filly against the guys trying 2 turns with just 2 starts worth of experience. And those 2 starts just weren't that sexy for me. This board's going to change. You're going to see total corrections are coming. A plentiful here is They Not Like Us is going to take a lot of play because They Not Like Us was second off the bench at Charlestown at a 12-5 maiden claimer. And that got them kind of high on They Not Like Us because the next 3 tries were all maiden special weight races. And They Not Like Us only lost by like a 5 spot in 2 of those races. And this may not sound like much, but it could be considerable against this field. It could actually make They Not Like Us a cigar compared to these horses. Also, they were high enough on They Not Like Us to try Colonial Turf last time. So there are some positives here. I will definitely have to watch that head on coming out of the gate because I really didn't see it other than the force got pinched back there. I got to be on that video and watch the head on a few times there for sure. Because if that's where the meat of the disqualification was, then I got to think about it. I got to look at it. Because I was commenting on the stretch incident there, and apologies for that, guys. Number 2, Mark of Greatness. Mark of Greatness coming out of some 4.5s. Might be eligible to go out there and open the lead. Maybe gets brave. Has never had the lead in his entire career that I can see, and has finished on the ticket, trifecta ticket 3 times at Charlestown. But unlike They Not Like Us, has been all the way down to 75 maidens and then folded up. This horse was in the money 3 straight times, which was something new for Mark of Greatness. But after those on-ticket efforts, the public seemed doubly certain this horse is not able to break maiden because the prices went up 13, 19, 37, 22. So sometimes when a horse runs well is when the horse proves, because maybe the horse had things its own way. The competition was simply that soft that the situation is basically pretty hopeless. I don't think it's hopeless here like it was there, but I do prefer the 4 horse. They Not Like Us. And I'm wondering what the price is here on They Not Like Us. Yeah, I gotta watch that head on for sure. That gate incident in the last race, because I was on the phone with my son. Apologies. Some personal issues that he and I have to discuss. And did not get a chance to watch. And I don't have sound here in my basement studio. So please keep me apprised of these things, guys. Slush Fund, clear favorite in the daily doubles. That is amazing to me, just amazing. Slush Fund can win it, and I'm still going to say that was a bad idea. I'm still going to say that was a very bad idea. 4 horse 2-1. You know what? This is a case where I really don't think that the final win pool is going to conform to the will pays, to the sacred will pays in the daily double, because man, it looks to me like the 4 horse should be favored here. I don't think the Sharpies are going to come up with that too. And is somebody coming back? No, somebody just went to reattach the pony after a good warm-up session there, I guess. They Not Like Us to 4. Did this jock make the scene at number 2, Mark of Greatness, or has there been a change? 7-1 on that one. I'll tell you what, give me the 2 and the 4 in a tag team match against the 3 and the 5. And, man, I would bet you money that one of my pair wins it instead of one of yours. Back after the race. Didn't take long to prove my point about how painful on the eyes and just painful on the soul a Mountaineers West Virginia bred races can sometimes be. That is a filly that beats the boys and literally walked the entirety of that trip, 25, almost 51, 146 for a mile. I don't know. Were those even thoroughbreds? Whatever the case, though, I get now. Well, the guy in the 2 made the trip all the way up here to ride such a bad 0 for 14 maiden, his mark of greatness. Tough for me to believe this guy's even 10% down there. You would think that he would have to scratch for all the mounts he can come by, because I wasn't real impressed with his action. The jockey on the horse in that race. But whatever the case, Slush Fund grabs the lead of the route and it gets a big heart and kind of confirms the play that she took those first 2 trips to the post there. Slush Fund to get the money. And I said there are just a couple of race categories in which American beat the boys. Turf, it happens on turf. It happens in the Wanted 440, because sexism and chauvinism is not going to help your handicapping in those instances. And also in West Virginia restricted races, because the horses are so bad and so slow to begin with. Not exactly thoroughbred racing at its finest. How bad can the 4-horse be? The jock is grinding and shoving and shoving and shoving, and they're going 51 and 17, and he can't make a move. May as well saddle up a tortoise. Ship a tortoise to Mountaineer and saddle it up. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Third race was supposed to be 7/8 on the turf, instead making 6 furlongs on a sloppy mountain main. This is an ever 2 with a incredibly inflated claiming price at $25,000. We still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 to the post in here, because I think like 4 or 5 of these broke maiden on turf, and their connection is still game to give it a go. On dirt, that crew would include Xena Cat, the 2 Sister Sola, the 3, Mystica, the 7, Bailey's Girl, the 8. Yeah, we got a whole passel of these that actually broke maiden on turf, correct? And very few of these don't have a shot as far as I can see. Sister Sola's got speed, but they've taken to rating her lately. So when you shorten her to 6 furlongs, she might have more natural speed than you think, but boy, her dirt form is just not good. It's not good. I mean, it's not good. Xena Cat's probably going to be the favorite, correct, when this flips over to dirt? Xena Cat. If for no other reason than Marshall Gonzi, right, is the conditioner. Let me check the tote out here and see who's favored. Xena Cat right now is, 5-2 and not unlikely to be favored. Xena Cat wins last time on turf at a mile and was dueling the whole way on the engine there with Xena Cat. Xena Cat was alert the time before at a mere 5.5 furlong distance, and then gets thrashed in the end game to a horse named Fiamma. And Fiamma was very visual there. Fiamma took a lot of play there that she really didn't merit on paper, and then came up huge. Now, she came back in her next to not run so hot at a number 2 allowance, Fiamma. But she was a fairly tough draw for Xena Cat there on April the 13th, just the way that she ran. Now, Xena Cat shows some good synthetic performances. Those are some of the better buyers for Xena Cat. The dirt numbers are her lowest for sure. Xena Cat, so it seems like her least favorite footing, but you gotta like Godzi's record. Although in a case like this, the trainer records probably don't apply a whole lot. And Xena Cat, I like how Xena Cat is a bit alert to first call in a couple of those sprints. So Xena Cat definitely a contender. Sexerito on the inside. This is an Eric Reed horse who won on dirt and won big with a speed fig that transcends what this field is probably capable of. The problem is that performance transcends what she has since been capable of. Sexeritos, just 7-2, and you throw the morning line out because it's drawn up for turf. So when they go to dirt, you're going to get different odds. Blinkers off on Sexerito because Sexerito got the front the last couple of times and then backed out of it. I'm going to assume that does not signal some kind of an attempt to rate Sexerito. Sexerito seemed to lose her mojo after that slow-paced but authoritative maiden win all the way back in November of 2024. So she's been in 2 Lifeland for quite some time as Sexerito. Plus, she's away 10 months from the game. after losing by 34 lengths at 3-5. So something wasn't right, seriously amiss with her. And she has simply not returned with much in the way of thoroughbred performance since Sexerito. Smiles for David, number 4 is 8-1. Smiles for David. Chased a runaway winner last time, Black Betty, who just grabbed the lead out of the gate and kept opening up on that field. In kind of a dull field of opposition there at 7.5 furlongs on the turf. Smiles for David, just one placing from, we're talking about 7 dirt tries, and this is a 7-year-old number 2 with 39 trips to the post. So no, thank you very much. Luminique, number 6, because the 5 is out. Luminique is 10-1. Luminique at least won on dirt to break maiden, and that was at Delaware. At the 6 furlong distance, Luminique came with a decent rally. Now, Luminique's last time on dirt here was not good. The likes that Don't Compress and Our Candy, those are bad horses. At least it was drawn up for dirt, though. Luminique might have needed it because that was Luminique's first race since December. And Luminique came back on turf. And I'm looking back at the turf race at Delaware. And the 2 dirt races that encircle it there are better than the turf efforts. So this horse might be better on dirt. And if that's the case, look out for Luminique because that was a good performance at a mile on the turf last time at 20-1 to a better horse than Nice Differentia. A decent Eric Reed horse with some potential on grass. And Luminique kind of ran in a spotty fashion, but just second start of form cycle might get down to business 3rd time to the post, Luminique. Now, what Luminique does not possess is a lot of speed on dirt. And so many times these races that are drawn up at 7/8 on turf, when they flip to 6 on dirt, they're speed dominated because they've got a route complexion. Whenever a 2-turn horse or smidgen of sprint speed can go out there and capitalize and grab the lead, is long gone. So the style's not going to help Luminique. And the barn, I'm not sure what to make of this because Marcus Kosygin and Boris Kosygin worked together. It's been a while since they won a lot of races at Mountaineer. So not a high percentage outfit we're talking about, but a horse who I do think is a contender there. Luminique at some 20-1 right now on Luminique there. Luminique did break maiden at 6 furlongs on dirt again and ran well on the turf last time, which from the previous turf effort and the surrounding dirt form didn't seem to really want turf a whole lot. Luminique. Mystica, number 7, one of those grass winners that stays on honor commitment and run here on turf. We used to try everything under the sun to get turf horses to stay on and compete on dirt and to keep us from getting scratched down to 2 and 3 horse fields. And we just never managed to pony up any kind of an incentive for them to do that. So they scratched wholesale. Mystica stays on here. I think maybe what happened here is they shipped to town and decided to stay when the race did come off the grass. Mystica, I broke maiden right here at 5/8 on turf, so she can sprint and is somewhat versatile because she was second the time before at a mile on turf. Mystica, but check her out. A sloppy dirt, and she loses by 22 lengths there and a 2-life claimer. So just not any hint that she wants dirt whatsoever. Mystica. Bailey's Girl, number 8. Lynn Cutno runs fit horses, a sneaky, skilled horseman. I'm not that surprised that he upset the apple cart there in a really bad grass race. But for what it's worth, Bailey's Girl did run down a loose leader who had never been on turf and did not have good Charlestown form, but did run down a loose leader for whatever that's worth and does not have turf pedigree. Bailey's Girl, so maybe some chance to come right back and win again. But how many horses like a Bailey's Girl are going to win from 9 lengths back at 2 turns on turf first time out and come right back and score again at 6 furlongs on dirt? It just doesn't seem likely, does it? Plus, boy, she was bought right for a mere $2,000. So could she conceivably, this Maryland bred, leave here 2 for 2 in about, 10 minutes or something like that? Let me skip on down to the 10 horse here, Quincy. I liked Quincy last time, but Quincy was way too far back at a race that was wired on a big lead that never came back to the field. I don't know if that's any kind of an excuse. Quincy has got to be better on dirt, right? Because Quincy won first lifetime asking on dirt by resounding 4 lengths there with a speed figure that could well work here, and then came back to be halfway competitive until the pace call at a non-claimer at Churchill Downs a couple of times later. And those are dirt races. So that kind of dirt form could make Quincy a player here. But the thing is, at 6 furlongs on dirt off those last couple of two-turn races, Quincy could just drop out the back early and have too much makeup to do. And again, these 7/8 races on turf, when they flip to 6 furlongs on dirt, it's usually the speed you're looking for. Although in this case, I'm not so sure that is the case, unless it would happen to be Xenacat under an aggressive ride from Bailey Weatherly, and that's how he rolls. A horse that has been alert to be a length back at first call in a couple of dirt races. But I think the off-pace brigade still has a chance here in this 7/8 race that flips over to 6 on dirt. Luminique and certainly Quincy on the outside. I want to tell you guys what happened with my Diet Cherry Dr. Pepper deal after the post parade. So I probably spend, I don't know, man, like on like 5 or 6 large Diet Cherry Dr. Peppers a week, which adds up. And I've probably spent 10K in the last 10 years on Diet Cherry Dr. Peppers at local Wendy's. And I always order it the same way. 1 large or 2 large if I'm really thirsty, to be honest. And I just got done with a hard summer workout. 1 large Diet Cherry Dr. Pepper. At which point this obnoxious chick, just the one chick behind the window, because there's a variety. They switch jobs back and forth out there. Always interrupts me after I get through 1 large Diet Cherry. She says, Coke, Coke. And I say, no, Dr. Pepper. So she's apologized to me profusely for it a couple of times. Must have been in a bad mood yesterday, because when I'm all done with my order, I said 2 large Diet Cherry Dr. Peppers. When I get to the pay window, she says, you're going to have to start ordering correctly. You're going to have to tell me up front that it's a Dr. Pepper instead of a Coke. And I told her, you interrupt me. You don't give me a chance to specify what type of beverage I want. She said, we're going to have to start saying right away what beverage it is and then tell me the type and the number. Who orders that way? In what universe does somebody come through a freaking fast food window and say, Dr. Pepper, Diet Cherry, 2 of them, like freaking Arnold Schwarzenegger? Nobody orders like that. And I've never had an issue ever with the hundreds of window girls and guys at Wendy's through which I pay to take my order on the headset. I've never had an issue with any one of them the way that I ordered until this one. So I said, you interrupt me every time. You don't give me a chance to specify Dr. Pepper instead of Coke. So she said, well, next time, if you don't say right up front, Dr. Pepper, 2 Diet Cherry larges, you're going to get Coke. At which point I blow my stack and I say, no, lady, I'm not. I will take you to the freaking management here. I will go to the company. I will go to the upper echelons of the company. So she slams the window on me. So I am so ticked off. I'm so pissed off about this. I am one hair from calling the manager, who I happen to know is also the owner of this franchise, except I don't want to get anybody in trouble, even somebody that treated me like that. So I'm simply going to take my business to Sheets now, which is like half mile away, and go in and pour my own large Diet Cherry Dr. Peppers. But does she have a leg to stand on? Am I supposed to order by first specifying the beverage type? In what world do you start out by saying double quarter pounders with cheese, 2 of them? No, you don't. Human beings state their order thusly: 2 large Diet Cherry Dr. Peppers. And if that doesn't happen to be the sequencing on her little machine, I think this is the issue. And she can't process the way humans speak smoothly enough to translate that to the sequencing on her computer screen. And that's her problem. She's in the wrong line of work, correct? I can't believe the way she went off on me over this. And this has got to prove I'm in the right, because it's the first issue I've ever had. And the way that I give my order to the chick behind the pay window at a fast food place. Boy, it's always the speed in races drawn up for 7/8 on turf when they flip to 6 on the dirt because of the route complexion. And who's ever quickest to the first call. That's just about the whole deal. Sexarito did have the speed in the race. Sexarito had the best dirt performance of anybody. The 57 Beyer and imposing wide margin win back in November of 2024. Sexarito, though, just wasn't running any good at all lately and was as low as 2-1 there. So, yeah, Sexarito, no surprise, but I wouldn't have taken 2-1 on Sexarito. Xenocat ran okay. I don't think Xenocat's as good on dirt as on turf. I think that's pretty obvious and tough to close in those races. We got cutback horses that are right up on the pace like Sexarito and Xenocat. Just nobody's going to close. The public had it doped out. The wise guys that set the odds in the win pool 2-1 on Sexarito, 2-1 on Xenocat. So my man Kevin from Minerva texted me a picture. I wish I could pop it up and show it to you, but I'm a technological dinosaur here. I'm a tech dullard that has me on a phone and me on another phone and propped up against something that looks like a tombstone on his porch. My man Kevin from Minerva. Is that a tombstone? You got my image propped up against? Maybe fitting. I don't know. Whatever the case. So we're checking the comments out. TC77 Kentucky said Mark is mad about a cherry Dr. Pepper. I'm mad about the DQ in the first race. A lot of folks seem pretty mad. Bang to win. Welcome, man. Thank you for coming in very much. I appreciate you guys making the scene very, very much. We will build this enterprise into something. Trust me. Stick with me, guys. Much appreciate your support. And I said it a million times. You guys are not my viewers. You're my friends. And if you're not my friend and you're still tuned in, you're likewise welcome because difference of opinion and even animosity is really what fuels sports. Got into this whole thing the other night. Not going to do it again this evening. Fourth race is 1 mile, 5,000 claiming, numbers twice in 6 months. We've got a field of 7, and most handicappers, the ones that talk a great game, the first thing they do when they crack the form open is look for lone speed and look for their biggest buyers. That's really how they roll. And lone speed just jumps off the page here. He's a shooter from the one post. I don't think this field can really keep shooter honest out of the engine, which gives us quite a dilemma because although he's a shooter, certainly knows how to win with those 10 career scores. And I know this horse pretty well from Mountain and also Mahoning. He's a shooter, and he's a shooter is very capable and would be unlikely to fumble the ball given the probable race flow here and the good setup, at least on paper, to go out there and control the lead on a strip that's produced 2 out of 3 front-running winners so far, right? So speed's got to be at least okay in this slop in Mountaineer tonight. But we have a problem with he's a shooter. Houston, there's a problem. He's a shooter has not been to the post since May the 10th, almost 2 months. What is that, like 7 weeks or something like that? And the problem is sometimes that means the horse has some physical issues. I don't know whether this horse's races have filled or a 2 in 6 months that would have been suitable for he's a shooter, but I do know this. He's a shooter's trainer does not specialize in these little nickel and dime layups. In fact, she's only 5 for 65 with horses that are off a month or 2. So some kind of recency would be preferable. Now, I know that she wins with horses when we open up in the spring in Mountaineer that have been away since the previous fall. That's a different deal. It's a different psychology. It's a different kind of preparation. It's a different layup mode. This is a situation where I would be more concerned about the soundness, where she's at with he's a shooter. Because this is not the same situation as a sound horse that just goes to sleep and hibernates over the same time period that Mountaineer hibernates. This is different. But if maybe her race just hasn't popped up in the book, and she's had to sit on he's a shooter, and he's a shooter is okay, her ability to have he's a shooter on tilt is a different question. And just a different issue. It's just different psychology. I don't like her record with horses that are off a month or 2. But if he's a shooter is okay, then I don't think he's a shooter is going to fumble this assignment on a soft lead, at least on paper from the one post. Nobody should lay a glove on the big boy until at least a far turn. And he's a shooter took all kinds of heat last time on the engine from Boldness. And Boldness didn't look that hot on paper, but Boldness came back to win his next 2, and both by big margins, like a good horse, which certainly flatters. He's a shooter who was forced 23 and change 47 and change and could lollygag a lot more slowly than that and still get the lead in here. None of this is going to be lost on your brethren horse players, and it's going to drive the price down. The race setup on He's a Shooter, and I'm going to check the odds now while we keep talking. He's a Shooter 7-2. Don't you believe it? He's a Shooter is going to go a lot lower than that. Self-Taught might be the favorite right now at 9-5. First time off the Silva claim. Self-Taught's capable with 11 wins and enough back class to make $250,000. It seems like Tijuana Stables and Silva like to jump in and claim horses with some back class sometimes. Going down to Charlestown's kind of a new thing, though, for Juan Pablo Silva. Brings his horses in from Phoenix and points further west, huh? Self-Taught picked up at Charlestown and really didn't fire there. Was originally claimed from Robert Cole. And when you mess with Cole at the claim box, you're playing big boy ball. And you want to put your big boy pants on because Cole plays hard at the claim box. Self-Taught didn't run a lick when haltered on June the 11th. Silva can write those kind of ships. I've seen him do it. But again, when you claim from Robert Cole at 20 cents on the dollar on a class drop, which Self-Taught was originally haltered out of those circumstances on May 14th, you better be tied on because you're playing big boy ball. And also, Self-Taught's unplaced 5 tries on wet dirt, which I think would likewise be a concern. I don't think Self-Taught's going to be the favorite here when the smoke clears, although there is back class, big back numbers, Laurel races, and some bigger outposts in places like that. But I think the questions that come attached to that last performance, and also He's a Shooter's lone speed status with those 10 career wins on almost 200K, have got to drive the price down on He's a Shooter here, don't they? I would think, huh? Beachwalker in between those, number 3, Beachwalker, $400,000 there. I don't like that he's been third 20 times, but he knows how to win. It's 2 for 7 at Mountaineer. Now, he dropped down to the new bottom at 3,200 last time and almost couldn't lose that race to a really bad field that saw the speeds back up. So I wouldn't be all that enthused about the margin of victory there from Beachwalker. Now, Beachwalker could withstand the hike in class here. It is possible, but he was beaten for 3,200 a couple of times before he comes through there at 8-5. And again, that field was kind of an offer that he couldn't refuse, Beachwalker. Our Cardinal Prince, number 6, I listed as a misconstrued price point on my head-scratching odds that I pick on my banner. Do I have that banner up now? Let me check it out. And I'm going to put it back up there. Yeah, there it is. Head-scratching morning line odds. Our Cardinal Prince 4-1. It will be much higher. Will be higher. I said there in my banner. And 8th race, Happy Friday, first-time starter by Ron Happy out of a barn that won with the first-time starter here. A few race cards back off a bullet work, a fast bullet work, by the way, compared to the other clockings on that tab, is going to be lower than 10-1. So, yeah, I'm correct, I'm sure, about the Our Cardinal Prince price point. Our Cardinal Prince has got to come from behind, doesn't get a lot of setup up front. It was kind of a generic win. When You Just Speak Can't Pay the Toll, it was about as generic as they come by a neck. Well, I'm not sure you're supposed to win right back. Has a better than okay wet track record, though. Our Cardinal Prince is still fresh, 4th start of cycle. And this former Thistledown allowance horse that used to have a lot of early foot is not over the hill in terms of age. He's only 6 there. Our Cardinal Prince plus the Stephanie Norris horses. I don't think she fronts for some different horsemen. Have been on tilt lately, which brings us to Toast to Coast there. And what's the price on Toast to Coast? Toast to Coast is 6-1. Some of his fan club has bailed. He's been favored like in his last 4 starts and in 6 of his last 7. Has come through once for victory. And that was over a decent Ohio horse named Smash. Toast to Coast used to go out and duel for the front first call, but has just not been alert last couple. He gets topped on a near 25 on May 26th and then comes back and going 6 furlongs. He's victimized by a couple of other cutbacks that were more alert than him the first call of that originally supposed to be 7/8 grass race there. So Toast to Coast, the further it gets into his long campaign, we're 23 starts in over the last 2 years. And I think in terms of 2 year basis for a lot of these wraparound campaigns, because that's the old school way that the races used to be written in Mountaineer. Non-winners of two in 2019, 2020, non-winners of three in 2002, 2003. You old timers know what I'm talking about. So he's had the long campaign, 23 starts worth, and he hasn't had the early verve that he used to, Toast to Coast. But he's a gamer, he's a grinder, he's a trier, and he keeps performing. But his odds right now higher than you have had to accept on him in quite some time. Number 7, Toast to Coast. And there's classic comment on monitor 77 Sunset Strip from Kentucky. My man says Mark is mad about a cherry Dr. Pepper. I'm mad about TQ in first race. Yeah, they're big things and little things. Your point is well taken, 77. No one is happy. Nobody happy. My man, and hello to, I can't say the name right. Bang got wins. Yeah. Mark is a Pittsburgh fan. Yeah, that is very true. They won today too, Jerry. And my bet is alive. It lives. My year-long wager, and I highly recommend this. It's a lot of fun, and it lasts a long time. It's like a horse race with a 6-month stretch drive. I'd have bet the Buccos to win 79. I'm not a baseball expert. It's just for funsies. For entertainment only, I bet like a few $100. Who else? My man Kenny Neely. Kenny says he got hurted there in the last race. A little bit, Kenny, but you're not going to get an EQ out of that, as you well know, my man. As you well know. So what else do we have here? Call the manager, Mark, says Chris Connors. People like that don't need to be protected so they can keep their job. I never reward rude people. You know what, though? I hate to play victim. It's just kind of a mental quirk that I have. I hate to be anybody's little victim, you know? I supervised and trained hundreds of racing officials over the years, bossed them after I trained them. And I never went to management above my head to discipline them. Never, never, never. Always dealt with it myself. I just never consult higher authority. I just don't. I don't know. I'm kind of a maverick. I don't know, kind of anti-authority in that regard. It would be against my nature to go above her head. And it's not because I'm sympathetic to her plight as a working woman necessarily, but it's just the kind of thing that I just don't do. I don't know. It's almost like whining if I do it, you know? Or is it? Am I whining if I do it? Am I playing somebody's little victim if I do it? Now 9-5 on he's a shooter who was always going to be favored here. But on the outside at 9-2 taking support is Gamekeeper. Gamekeeper purchased privately off some lousy Charlestown form. Silva's got a lot of confidence in his ability to improve on horses for sure. I think it's the wet track aptitude. All three of the dirt wins have been on wet footing that is keeping the price down a little bit on Gamekeeper. 9 horses, the 1 horse is likeliest. He's a shooter, but the 2 months off, the near 2 months off, do trouble me a little bit here, guys. So for full disclosure, guys, not a huge bet, but a bet. I bet $60 to win on He's a Shooter because, as I mentioned several times, He's a Shooter has got to be the favorite there, not the silly ass 5-horse self-taught. I mentioned a couple of times, you claim from Robert Cole, a horse that looks too good to be true at 20 cents on the dollar on a class drop. You better get ready to duck because you're not going to like what you take back to the barn with you. He plays big boy hardball on a Robert Cole. So that was ridiculous for the 5 to be favored over Lone Speed. He's a Shooter who last time had to fight off constant pressure from Boldness, who affirmed that performance from He's a Shooter with 2 wide margin wins coming out of it. I was concerned. I'm not going to redboard. I was concerned about the near 2 months away from the races, but not concerned enough to not get some of that at 5-2 on a horse that should have been 8-5 or 7-5. He's a Shooter. Really should have been. And checking the comments here. My man, Lyrics, is in the house. Oh, yeah. Welcome, Lyrics. Welcome. And my man wants to know, this is an interesting question. He asked me, are Silva and Garcia back on good terms? Let me tell you guys how this works. I'm friends with Juan Pablo Silva, and I'm never critical of him on the air. He's kind of a notorious character behind the scenes and has been sanctioned in Phoenix a couple of times, maybe Southern California too, whatever the case though. I am objective about Juan Pablo Silva, even though we're friends, because I'm friends with Clouston too, and certainly good friends with Jay Bird, and I've always been on friendly terms with Jamie Poole and most of the horsemen and Mountaineer. But I'm still blunt in my critique. Silva is kind of like, and do not misconstrue what I'm saying, he's like the godfather of the entire Hispanic community on the backstretch at Mountaineer. And I think he's a benevolent godfather too, if they need a couple of bucks or it's that kind of a situation. And I think a lot of the jockeys that ride for Silva, he imports them and they come here at his behest. Now, he can be a little bit temperamental if they displease him, even if he did arrange for them to come here and they came here at his behest. They can be on the outs with Silva at the snap of the fingers, definitely, and have to work their way back in. And also, Silva is loath to kill competition amongst riders for his barn, rarely turns the whole outfit over lock, stock, and barrel to any pilot. I'm a little surprised when I look and see Arroyo, who I assumed came here at Silva's behest. I could be mistaken about that. I don't want to speak out of turn or out of school here, but when I see Arroyo accepting so many outside mounts outside the Silva barn, and Silva not really employing Arroyo to the extent that I thought he might when Arroyo came here, then maybe it's not a deal where Silva is the boss of Arroyo. But think of Juan Pablo Silva, when it comes to the jockeys and agents at least, is the godfather, the unquestioned boss of the Hispanic racing community at Mountaineer. At least that was always my interpretation of it. Not necessarily the trainers, but the jockeys that ride for Silva. In other words, when they come here, they happen to pop up here to ride for Silva, like a Negron or somebody like that. They want to stay on good terms with Juan Pablo. And what he says goes. What he says goes, believe me. I hope that is an acceptable answer to your question. My man, one of the few people that calls me Marky, so I know who I'm talking to there. That is Lyrics. That's my man, Lyrics. Norman Williams. I never knew your name, man. I never knew your name. All the years we've been going back and forth and communicating as good friends, I never knew your name. You're 5-2, which is too high on He's a Shooter, guys. The fifth race, 6 furlongs. Another West Virginia bred race is in this special. We watched a mare beat the boys in a West Virginia bred maiden race earlier and run the mile in a sprightly 146 after 50 and 117 en route. So this one, the defection of AOK certainly changes things around when it comes to how the board's going to look and certainly changes potentially the outcome here as well. This is an Ever 2 Life. We're claiming 12-5 for horses which have never won 3. So the tag is kind of an equalizer. So technically this is an allowance optional, but there's not really an option involved because when you have the one-time winners, they get to run not to be claimed. More often, a race like this would be won by the higher echelon 2-time winners, even with their connections willing to go for the 12-5. So that's kind of the catch here. The claiming price is supposed to be an equalizer in a case like this. Not so easy to locate a probable post-time favorite with the defection of AOK. Maybe number 6, Union Branch. Union Branch was well supported last time at an allowance and comes in for the 12.5 here. That was not an allowance optional either. So let me check out the board here. I want to get some perspective on the odds because it's really about value and what the price points are going to look like here. Because that is what you need when you make a bet. You got to make sure that the price is equitable and that you like the horse's chances more than the public does, which was the case with He's a Shooter for me. So I'm looking now and 2-1 on the break, Candy for Cynthia. John Schuler's dynamic in the West Virginia bred races. And Candy for Cynthia gets up to win last time. And I guess one thing folks like about it is Slush Fund winning earlier, although I'm not sure a mile in 147 is flattery. What Slush Fund did earlier to one of the worst fields ever assembled. I'm not sure that flatters Candy for Cynthia at all. And there was some setup speed there for Candy for Cynthia in that race, for sure. And there were some green horses too, which haven't found their stride yet. I think the place horse might have been a first-time starter of all things. Candy for Cynthia, in my opinion, got a decent setup last time. And the win wasn't sanctioned, even money. And another concern I would have here, and I'm not saying Candy for Cynthia won't win it, I'm not even saying Candy for Cynthia is not the most likely winner in here, but also Candy for Cynthia is a one-time winner, and you want to be careful because this header admits 2-time winners. Never 3s can run in here, and Candy for Cynthia is a mere never 2. So, yeah, so Steve says, Mark answered that question in a roundabout way. And I warned you guys earlier, I never directly answer the question I'm asked. I answer whatever question I want to answer. I'm notorious for that. I got some viral appearances, as I told you guys earlier, on racing podcasts. One of them took like 3,000 hits, which is unheard of. For a guy being interviewed from a small track like Mountaineer. And I got asked questions, and I gave compelling answers. But I didn't answer the questions I was asked. But that's why I was never asked to go back on some of those podcasts. I should have been a politician, you know? I'm not diplomatic, and I don't mean to withhold information. I spill my guts, but I answer whatever question I fancy I want to answer, you know? Maybe I should have been a politician. I hope that was satisfactory to you, my good friend Lyrics. And you better believe to ride for Juan Pablo, they're going to be on good terms with Juan Pablo. Because he can be a little punitive if they displease my man there. Anyway, Candy for Cynthia is the favorite here in a race that's hard up for a favorite. Union Branch, I think, may vie for favoritism here, huh? Because Union Branch likes to sit just behind Red Roscoe. Maybe can't get 6 furlongs, but maybe can get 6 furlongs against this field, huh? Fernando's Gold can get 6 furlongs. Another speed. Fernando's Gold, though, I thought it was almost a negative drop last time, down to $4,000. Came outside the program, so I'm not surprised that the horse regressed. But we do have descending buyer pattern here with Fernando's Gold, who in an allowance on June the 2nd was in with a 2-in-a-row winner, a heavy favorite of Charlestown. So I'm not sure why they put this horse in for $4,000 last time. Fernando's Gold does have a good turn of foot, though, and might be tasked here with keeping Red Roscoe honest. And vice versa. I think Fernando's Gold would be more dangerous here at 6 furlongs as a 6 furlong winner than Red Roscoe would. Although I think Red Roscoe might be the quicker of the pair to first call. And if Red Roscoe can dispatch Fernando's Gold early, then Red Roscoe might pose a threat here. So each of them poses a threat, but they could be headed for a serious disagreement here, which could set it up for Candy for Cynthia. Union Branch would maybe be a stalker here, a pace stalker. Of the style somewhat unique to this field is the 2 and the 7 both gun in pursuit of the lead, and Candy for Cynthia drops back, huh? So does Union Branch's style maybe distinguish him here somewhat? I'll tell you a little something about Union Branch after the post parade, just out of habit. From years of getting my mic cut while Pete did the post parade. I'm going to step aside while you guys get the rundown when they come onto the track, and then I'll be back to talk more about this race. So Union Branch got a full big boy distance of ground, broke maiden at a mile, so 6 furlongs should be attainable. My thing though is both this horse's wins were on the lead, and Union Branch ain't getting the lead here. Has Union Branch matured into some kind of a pace stalker with a passing gear? I don't know if that's apparent from the past performances. I don't know if that's apparent at all. And I will say this, that 53 Buyer kind of jumps off the page from Union Branch to back, but it was bias aided. I'm not going to knock Union Branch, who I think has a big chance here, but the track was better along the inside. It was almost golden rail, in my opinion. And the 53 Buyer was bogus. That's not the real Union Branch, who saved all the ground on an extremely real favoring surface, in my opinion, guys, in my opinion. And then 3-1 on Dancing King. Dancing King drops from an allowance, did pass a rival through the lane last time. Now, this horse is similar to Union Branch in that both wins were all the way on the lead, not getting the lead here. I'll let you judge if he's matured to the point where he can pass anybody. I know that he passed one horse last time, but that was a shorter sprint. And that winner slowed up a lot in the late stages. Watch the last 110 when you want to assess a 5.5 furlong race, because it tells the whole story a lot of times. And that final 110 was slower than 7 seconds there. So the winner was kind of leaving it out there like a hanging curveball in deep stretch. I can make case for the 2, the 3, the 6, the 7, and the 8 here. So promise you, no intention to bet in this race. And the best of luck to you guys if you do intend to. So congrats to our boy Banger. I'm giving you props on the screen there, man. I put up your picks where you boxed the 3-6 exacta, which paid $20. Hope you nailed it a bunch of times, my man. Those first two finishers both dropped from an allowance race, which I guess was an 8. And they were also two-time winners, which was a max under the header there. So that was another good thing. Interestingly enough, there were two horses that both won twice on the lead each time. And tonight, somebody had to show a passing gear to win. And it turned out to be Union Branch, who sustained a lot better, class drop notwithstanding, under Arroyo than for some other pilots. Union Branch, a tendency to hang in some of those races when he doesn't get the lead, which he did in both his victories, but sustains that rally from well back tonight under Arroyo, as Red Roscoe proves a couple of things. Number one, he ain't much horse, because when you get that kind of a lead on that kind of a field and squander it so readily, you ain't much stock. And also, speed is hardly invincible tonight. We've seen some front-running winners, for sure, but speed is certainly not unbeatable over the mountain main tonight, huh? 6 furlongs for the 6th race, mixed condition, owners in 12 months or never for life. And these conditions just don't go together. 3,200 claiming we're talking about. And I would love to find something in here. Well, I have found a horse that doesn't fit the lower condition. The non-winners in 12 months, number 2, Lino and Me, who qualifies under the 4 life clause, correct? Yeah, so that is something, huh? Because to put a 4 life together with an on 12 months just doesn't make sense to me, because an on 12 months is a much more restrictive condition. 4 lifers come up way saltier. And you know what? There's only one horse in here that would not fit this except for the 4 life clause, and that's number 2, Lino and Me, who looks like the speed too. Looks like the lone speed in a very sluggish array of horses. Number 2, Lino and Me, who was claimed for $5,000 there on May the 5th, I guess based on that 12-length Parks romp with a 67 buyer. Lino and Me didn't run well when claimed, but might have needed it. I was thinking had been off a couple of months and was forced along through some closer-friendly fractions. So next time, Lino and Me is 2-1 is the apparent lone speed and completely tanks. Just a hideous effort. Did not display particularly good action either. Just kind of jabbed at the ground in short stride. It was not good at all. And you don't claim them for $5,000 with a mind to drop them down to $3,200 2 tries later. So this transaction has gone south in a big hurry, Lino and Me. But I like how Lino fits the conditions. And you get a cutback horse that shows a strictly route form that pulls into a race that sees her as a probable early leader, Lino and Me, huh? Yeah. So some plus points there for sure. All Through the Stars is 2-1 on the morning line. Is this race that bad? That All Through the Stars is 2-1? Out of kind of an obscure barn, but a barn that did win a race last week. So that's kind of good. I go with the hot and cold. The People magazine approach a lot when it comes to trainers, who's hot, who's not. And I wonder right now what the price is on All Through the Stars. It will at least show some current form to have been second last time. But second in a race that was not run strongly, and in a race that's set up for All Through the Stars rally is V. Tommy, who loves to quit. Got the lead, put the brakes on, and the winner, One Night Stand, came from well back and kind of outfinished All Through the Stars in there. Now, One Night Stand, arguably better than these horses. I get that. But All Through the Stars probably not going to be as low as that 2-1 morning line, because we're not talking about a good horse. We're not talking about a barn that wins a lot either, guys. Plus, the setup isn't there like last time. Unless you figure the 2 is a cinch to get the lead, Lino and Me. And the recent form is just so putrid. Did you figure Lino and Me is going to come back to the competition here, huh? Well, you get past that, slim pickings, man. Miss Wild has been away from the game for a year. And I'm a fan of Don Blankenship, for sure. But does not have a good percentage for this owner. And a lot of times it's about the owner as much as it is the conditioners, guys. I said it a million times because it's true. And Miss Wild, there's got to be a big price here. Not a good horse to begin with. 0 for 7 over the mountain main and has been away for a year, a freaking year. Myra Fleener, a front-running route horse who clunked up for fourth last time to bottom out the Superfecta ticket for a lowly 26 buyer, has no sprint speed at all. Myra Fleener. Into the Night, number 5. Into the Night. I was in with a better horse last time, snapping buttons, and I don't think she really wants to go route of ground. Into the Night. I don't. I think she's better going short. She's got a good win record going short. But she seems like a very old 7 and hasn't tasted victory in a couple of years. Plus, man, she's got no speed at all. I mean, no speed. And given the setup here, it could be difficult for anybody to come from too far back because whoever's in front could be walking to do it, right? Very unusual race here. This $3,200 level, I'm not a fan of it because if it didn't exist, then you wouldn't have to stomach horses like Into the Night and Sonador. Perpetual also ran, and Miss Wild. They wouldn't give her a year and then bring her back to the races. But this new lowered claiming price, the Horseman Friendly $3,200 level, it incentivizes outfits to keep horses like this around. And that's good for the outfits. It's good for the barns. They got to pay bills. It's not so good for us, the players, the handicappers, because we've got to put up with this. Not a fan of this $3,200 level at all. I get why they do it. It's horseman friendly. And we had a lot of horseman friendly measures too when Joe and I were in charge of the racing office at Mountaineer, for sure. We did as well, but I'm just going to be blunt. I'm going to be objective. I'm not knocking the place, but I'm just not a fan of the $3,200 claimers. I'm just not. And this is a strange race because I think your obvious early leader here on paper, unless Miss Wild happens to flash some fresh speed. Could that happen off of 36 work there? Because she's been close to the pace in some of her sprints. But I think your likely early leader in Lino and Me looks so lousy of late that your apparent leader may not even pose a serious threat in a field full of Myra Fleeners and Into the Nights and sluggish route horses, right? Sonador reared the start last time, and she's been known to be alert in some of her races. And I'm scraping hard to find somebody who might grab the leader, and not somebody I would necessarily like or give a big look-see to. Man, this is just a race that's unpleasant to look at. But we're going to stick with it. And they've got to stay the course here with our deliberations because you never know when a wagering opportunity is going to pop up. Five minutes to post. I'm about all talked out of this sultry event. Shane and I watched the original Alien last night, and got to make a distinction. Shane is a horror movie buff. He's not a sci-fi fan at all. But Alien has been characterized as more of a monster movie, more of a horror film than straight up sci-fi. And I think that's true because the central figure, the title figure, the alien, is an absolute monster, just a horrifying beast. And I'd forgotten just how good that movie really is. Sigourney Weaver, the original girl boss, and did it effortlessly without any kind of a woke script or woke insertions in the plot line, just seized the screen and seized control of the situation. Well, what a talent she was and what a superlative performance she put forth in the original Alien. And also, what a departure, what a revelation the industrialized, grimy, just majestic super spaceship was in Alien, and how different that was from some of the sanitized, high-tech stuff that preceded it, like in A Space Odyssey, 2001, A Space Odyssey, and stuff like that, where they wore silver, spotless onesie jumpsuits. Whereas in Alien, and boy, this was just eons ahead of the space movies that preceded it in terms of style. Instead of the spotless silver onesie jumpsuit space suits, the silly stuff that had been worn before Alien. But these guys have doobies hanging out of their lips, and they're wearing bad Hawaiian shirts and headbands. and the grimy industrialized spaceship that in some sense might have been the star itself of the movie Alien. Just fantastic movie. It was just groundbreaking in so many ways. The original Alien, man. Wow. And that iconic scene too, where that thing busts out of the guy's chest. A scene unrivaled in horrordom, right? Nothing like it, right? If you haven't seen Alien, you're missing out. And if you have, watch it again. Just an incredible movie that we watched last night. We'll probably go for Alien 2 tonight, which some people consider actually superior to the original. Aliens, I think is the title of Alien 2, right? The sequel. Wild Looker number 7, old Mike Jimenez horse. I think the owner was the driving force of this runner for a long time. Wild Looker, I can tell you, is better on synthetics, but is a 4-time winner over the Mountain Maine and is almost a 500 hitter when it comes to the exacta. He's been away from the races, doesn't really have speed though. And it's not a pretty mover, man. You would think she's about to fall down with every stride she takes. Vingativa, 4 wins on turf, 2 on dirt. She's way better on turf, Vingativa. Was second to a phenomenal grass horse in a starter race on May 31st, but second by 7 lengths is nothing to write home about. And a mere 5-furlong trip. And on grass, the fields tend to bunch up a little bit anyways. Vingativa should have fired better last time on her native footing, the turf, but this is an old angle at Mountaineer when they get off the grass because they're tired of running wide open or higher price claimers, stuff like that, because they want to capitalize on the softest the condition book has to offer. And I'm going to check out, I'm not going to bet this race, by the way. I think you guys have already ascertained that. Go to the comments. We have some interesting comments concerning this claiming price and my diatribe. One of my mottos here in the dungeon is no race too low, no horse race too low. Somebody's pretty witty here that says no race too low, except for $3,200. Yeah, kudos, my man. You called me out on my own motto, so I give you credit for that. My man Norman says the Pope Gramworth Village, funny seeing the cop goes doo-doo in his pants. Yeah, I'm talking about the iconic scenes in horror movies, though, my man. Harry Dean Stanton, great actor, somebody mentions. And somebody says 3,200 is fine with them, that I say the cheaper the better. Yeah, I agree, Craig, but I'm going to make an important point here. If the $3,200 horses were competitors and hard knockers at the 32 level, then the races would be fine with me. But at this point, they're cast-offs that can't compete and have acquired the lowest of conditions at the $4,000 level. They're horses without form, like Sonador and Into the Night and Myra Fleener and stuff like that. So they're the refuse from the $4,000 level rather than a lower claiming price, which is legitimate unto itself. If you guys could appreciate what I'm saying here. And claiming prices and conditions were my business at Mountaineer as an assistant racing center for a long time, a long, long time, guys. So we do have some cred when I speak on this topic. And I wouldn't touch this race with your money, guys. Good luck, however you guys intend to proceed here, if at all. Tip of the cap if you came up with Myra Fleener there. I'm not sure any logic known to man could have identified Myra as the winner there. I think they all had a shot because they all had a serious case of the slows. There was no speed up top, but that doesn't mean anybody was going to get comfortable. So many times in no speed races, you get evenly matched stalkers and stuff like that, and route horses cutting back that go out there. Nobody's quick enough to assert dominance, so just bang back and forth. So just because the pace is slow doesn't mean anybody's comfortable that's up on the pace. And that set up pretty good for Myra Fleener. Luis Tapara is good from off the pace. I'm going to credit my man a little bit there, and loves to save ground. He's got a penchant for saving ground and coming from off of it. That is Myra Fleener's 6th local win, and she's 6 for 6 against me because I've never identified her as the winner in any of those victories at Mountaineer. But that race was so bad that somebody had to win it, right? And it was Myra Fleener. Wasn't that Gene Hackman's girlfriend in Hoosiers, Barbara Hershey? Great movie, Hoosiers. Just a great, great movie. My advice, put that entire field on your permanent pay no attention list. This one's more interesting. 7th race, really short field, but more interesting. This is never 4 or nominators in 2026, 4,000 claiming. So 1 mile, and Remerton is scratched. Remerton actually ran on July the 1st. And I got into this on X. I made a lengthy post on X. Remerton drew in from the also eligible on July 1st from deep on the also eligible. And when I was there, we used to have a rule, a policy, that once a horse is in the body of a subsequent race, that horse is an auto scratch from the AE if it's already on the AE and not any event. And that saves this kind of confusion. I wonder how many folks that took 8-5 on Remerton on July 1st knew that this horse was already entered back in here. And now Remerton's got to come out of a field that was short to begin with, only 7. And this scratch could have probably been avoided had Remerton been auto scratched from the also on July the 1st once Remerton drew into the body here, because the horse is very unlikely to honor both engagements. And really, that's the way to do it, is to auto scratch anything that hits the also eligible once it draws into the body of a subsequent race on a subsequent occasion. I get why they don't do it because it's probably not in the rules. But we had a policy, kind of an expanded end-of-day rule, which is kind of complicated. And stuff like this is right in my wheelhouse, but it's just a bad look. And it's so confusing to the players when a horse draws in and is back in, or when a horse is in the body of 2 races to begin with, on 2 different days when the first engagement has yet to be honored. Just not the kind of thing that was permissible under our policies, but they do just fine on their own with their much more horseman-friendly policies. A lot of it's about the horsemen and doing horseman-friendly things in Mountaineer now. Even with Remerton out and the reduction of this race, Racquetap Tap's also out down to 5. Still kind of a compelling race. And big questions come attached to, I think, 3 of these horses, right? Number 3, Attaboy Anthony. Attaboy Anthony has only run twice since last September. They're really spaced apart. It has not been postward since May. And what's the drop about here? Wins for 75 cleverly, comes back to be 3rd for 8, and pops up in here for $4,000, like something's amiss. Hugo Andrade, though, is 24% at Mountaineer, so this guy means business when he runs one. And Attaboy Anthony's got this speed style with his 11 career wins, which on the face of things, if he's not 100%, should be compromised by Heart Astray. Heart Astray is very fast, Heart Astray. Attaboy Anthony can be rated just a little bit if push comes to shove, but it's the drop and the sketchy campaigning here that would concern me with Attaboy Anthony. And as far as the field's other speed, and my race flow note, I have a race flow note on one of my banners here, and I'm going to pop it up for you guys. It's my only race flow note of the night. And there it is. With Attaboy Anthony on potentially negative drop and Heart Astray, perhaps in need of another outing, this race puts off distinct meltdown vibes. And yeah, my first instinct is to look behind the pace in here for somebody that might rally. Win It, number 4. He's got issues of his own here. Win It. You can't make this stuff up. Pulls up and they send a 4-turn taxi for him, an equine ambulance. When the claim is voided for 50 at Saratoga, he's down to 12-5 a couple of times later. He's double odds, 10-1. And again, the claim gets voided. So does this horse have 4 legs? A leg in each corner? Over to Mike Jones, who doesn't seem to have his old mojo this year. A horse like Win It, almost $400,000, might show up on class alone and win it, and might even get a favorable race shape here, but not for my money. It's against my religion. And yeah, I was so dumb to try and quote the good book earlier because I know not the good book. And I tried to quote it something about fathers that love their sons or something like that, and probably messed it up so badly. But yeah, it's against my religion to bet a horse or pick a horse like Win It. I mean, come on, what do you need? Slapped in the face? Pulled up, equine ambulance, claim voided for 50, risk for 12.5, and the claim voided again, and now pops up for $4,000 tonight, huh? Hard Astray, Clever Barn, for sure. Maybe it was a practice tune up there for 75 with Hard Astray, and they cut him loose tonight, but it usually takes them a few to get him limbered up and get him dead fit, Hard Astray. And off that 19-length fold, I can't like him right back. He didn't even show his customary zip through the early stages. They're a horse that usually runs off from his competition early on in his races, huh? So far, all we found are compelling reasons to not like just about every horse in the field, huh? I'll tell you a horse I do like here, number 6, Leroy and Royal. I do like Leroy and Royal. I know the form is abysmal, and I know he's got a bad habit of breaking slowly. It's not referenced in the short comment there. But Leroy and Royal spotted that field about 4 or 5 lengths right from the get-go. You're not going to win doing that. And he broke very late a couple of starts ago, too, did Leroy and Royal. And you don't normally want to back a horse like that because you're making 2 bets. One bet is he's going to break better because if they don't, they're probably not going to win. And the second part of that bet is they're good enough to win to begin with a better start. But I've got reasons to like Leroy and Royal here a little bit. It's 7-1. I think the speeds are shaky. Hard Astray and Attaboy Anthony, especially Hard Astray. And number 4, Win It. What's up with Win It? So Leroy and Royal, somebody could win this with just a sound form and a sound performance. So it comes without big questions attached. And I've told you guys a lot of times, Thomas Martinez is going to win some races. And sometimes with bad stock, he improves on horses that come into his care. And I'm shocked that he's yet to taste victory this year. But he will, believe me, and probably when you don't expect it. Kind of a low-key guy that traffics in bad horses, Thomas Martinez, and that affects his win rate. Leroy and Royal, though, knows how to win. He's done it 7 times. And last starts in some kind of a starter allowance, almost as if his conditioner saw him coming around behind the scenes, and loses by 8.5 lengths, but Force of Justice, who's starter allowance royalty, invincible when he's got his game on, accounted for some 7 of those lengths. So Leroy and Royal only missed a minor placing there by about 1.5 lengths and put up a 64 buyer. So those are clear and present signs that he's going to be dangerous in the near future. Leroy and Royal are correct. Now, the big 3 that come with so many questions that I just can't accept attached. Each has the potential to beat Leroy and Royal, Attaboy Anthony, and Win It and Hard Astray, but just too many questions. A bad baggage each of those horses brings along, and I think it could set up for Leroy and Royal to begin with. At 6-1 there. And on the outside, Daneland, not a good horse. Daneland, it just hasn't done a lot to show me much. I know he wins for 12.5 there, but that's vastly inflated as a number 3 life, sub-50 buyer. Not a good horse. Daneland, just 1 placing from 7 tries on wet footing. Guys, I am borderline diabetic. I'm not full-fledged diabetic, but I think my sugar level is dropping now. And I'm going to have to conclude the commentary on this race at least and call up for a little bit to bring me something down, some kind of a snack pronto. Apologies, guys. I'll be back after the race. Don't be concerned. Nothing to see here. It happens to me sometimes. I'm just starting to feel a little woozy and a little bit weak. I will be back tonight.